Hey guys, Art 2 here, and we're in week 3 now, so we're moving right along. If you haven't sent me your work from week 1, you probably should do that pretty soon. As I said, it's best to complete the projects, the assignments, by the following week. So, week 1, by week 2, the end of week 2, you should have finished those, and now, of course, started on the other ones and sent me week 1. If it's week 3 and you haven't sent me week 1, then you are kind of getting behind, and this will only perpetuate to where you have a lot of backed up work. Okay, and it's going to get harder and harder to finish those because I typically ask most students to work on them more. And once they sent me them initially, then I ask for more work. I give suggestions, I give examples, and then you work on it more for a better grade and send it back. So, there's always more you can do unless you really did a fantastic job straight out the gate. Then I will let you know that. But typically, it's more work as we go. So you want to get those to me by the following week, by the next week after they have been posted. Okay, so we're in week 3, talking about assignment number 5, which is monochromatic painting, and that means painting with one color using white and black to make it lighter and darker. So I'm going to give you some examples of that. Blue and red work really well. If I was to choose a color to do the monochromatic with, I would choose one of those. Mainly because they're primaries, but they work well with white and black to make lighter tints and shades of that one color. So let's say we're using blue. Let's pick this one. Very simple one. Not that you're going to have to do a simple one if you don't want to. You can do any of these examples here. Some of them have a lot more work to them, more involved. So, but if you notice, well, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different shades of blue, tints and shades, they say, as the tint would be the lighter and the shades are the darker. And then it has a silhouette of a tree or landscape here and tree over it, which is a good idea, for this project. But there are 6 levels of tone, different tones or tints and shades in that color. So dark blue, lighter, a little lighter, very light, and then you have the white. So you also have the black and white in this painting, along with those other tones, levels of tone. And how you get that is, what I would like you to work with is just one color of blue. So one hue of blue, and you are going to use white to lighten it up, and you're going to use black to darken it up. And this is going to give you that painting experience of mixing really basic with colors. And later you can learn how to mix different colors together to make a primary or secondary color darker or lighter without using light, white, and black. But this is the super basics. So we're using white and black to make them darker and lighter. All right. I mean, later you can use red and green and other colors and make them darker and lighter, and it works really well. But this is a basic uh, art class. So this is where we're starting with that. Okay, so you look at this kitten here, and that's a certain hue of blue, okay, out of a tube. There's many, but you're using that as your basic beginning spot, and then you're going to add white or black to it to make it darker and lighter. And you're going to experiment on a separate surface that you're using for your palette, whatever that may be. You can use a piece of plastic or plexiglass, a piece of wood, sometimes tin foil or aluminum foil works well, and even cardboard sometimes if it doesn't get too wet can be a palette. You can get palette paper at the art store too, which works really well to mix your paints, but you want to experiment. How light is it? How dark is it? How much do I add white? How much do I add black to make the different shades you need? So this cat probably has at least 7 or more different shades of blue in it, and the black, and a little bit of white up here. And the whiskers are kind of white. So there's your white, there's your black, and then you have all the colors in between. Or shades of the same color being blue is what I meant. So, here's a rose. This is all blue. Within each rose petal, there are several different tints and shades of blue in there. But typically, this one is a little lighter than this one, a little lighter than this one, a little lighter than they all separate themselves. But there are dark and light parts to each petal, which is a great way to do it. It shows a lot of shape that way. This is, I think, a watercolor. So when you're using the paints, we could use watercolor or you could use acrylic. Acrylic's going to work well with the white and black. When you're using watercolor, you don't use white, you use the paper white. So you mix the paint very watered down for very light blue, and then the white of the paper helps that become lighter. Or you mix it very saturated or with a lot of value in your color to make a darker blue. And that's going to work differently with the white paper as well. And that's how you get your lighter and darker shades without using white when you're using watercolor. With the watercolor, you can use black in some of the colors to make them a little darker. And you want to do that. You want to go darker than what you started with, the original hue. You want something darker than that, you're going to add black to it. Okay, so let's talk about red, because there's lots of red ones here. Red works good with black too, but you have to use just a little. It'll darken up that red slightly, and then the white will lighten it up. So there's several levels of tints and shades in here that are considered red. Dark, dark, dark red, and not so dark, middle ground, and very light, and then almost white, but not quite white. Like the eye is probably white, the white of the eye right there. But these parts are very slightly backed off from that white. They have a little red in them. So they tend to look a little pink, which is okay for this project. Many different examples, very intricate, lots of different tints and shades of that blue using white and black. And if it was watercolor, I'll provide 2 videos as well. Okay, so one will be using acrylic to make the monochromatic, and one will be mixing watercolors to do that. The silhouette idea works really well, actually, to have sort of a silhouette. And then back here, these are kind of very dark purple over the background lighter purples. Now, purple, okay, is a secondary color. I'll allow that for this because, with purple, though, stay with the purple. Don't start adding in reds and blues, is what purple is made from, red and blue. Try to stick with a purple of some sort. darker or lighter. Okay, and it maybe get a little tricky with adding black to it. I think they actually did use a blue purple in here, which is cheating. Because I want you to use the one color and the black and white without using a darker or lighter purple, because then that's really easy to do, right? Well, when you're talking about beginning painting, you have to try these. You have to experiment with these techniques of just using the white and black to make it darker, or if you're using watercolor, you're using the white of the paper to help you make colors lighter by mixing it very watered down blue or red or whatever you're using, and you put that on the paper. Well, the white of the paper is showing through the paint, and it becomes lighter. Okay, and but you want to experiment. How much should I put in? How much should I not? How much water? How much paint? Okay, and then like I said, you can use black. Green can work pretty good, I think, with the black and white as well. What don't work very well as is orange and yellow. They end up being browns in there, so you're kind of getting away from your one color again. Because well, orange, having red and yellow in it, but the yellow itself, even being a primary, the black turns it kind of brown. So I would stick with blue, red, or green, or purple, something like that. Okay, and this is a really cool idea. Little sections. It's the cubism idea, sort of, and you can scroll through here and get all kind of ideas, but stay with the one color. Don't add two colors. Okay, that's why red, even green is yellow and blue. But if you stay with the shades, intense shades of green, using a green out of the tube, whatever you had, and adding some white and black to it, will make it lighter and darker, and you'll still stay with that green without getting blues and yellows. Okay. Okay, so here's all your ideas. Many of them. A lot of my students did this. They really love this. You put little white stars in there, It's kind of a silhouette looking up through the water, possibly from the bottom. Very clear water. But look at all this. Different shades turning into the tints, from the tints to the shades, and getting a little darker as it goes back and back. They could actually do a little more with that, maybe, too. I think they could have done a little more with that, the colors. This one has a little more purple in it, so that's what you want to stay away from. All right, so I'll let you guys get started on that. Like I said, it could be watercolor or acrylic. I'll provide 2 videos on that, and so watch those, if depending on which one you're going to do, or maybe you make up your mind after watching both. And watercolor sets are very inexpensive. You can just get the primaries in acrylic in small tubes. And if you want to do that, we're going to do another color project in this class. So you might want to get a little bigger tubes, or just start with the monochromatic color you're going to use, like blue, and get white and black. And then maybe later, if you're struggling with buying material right now, all of it, just get a few things. Well, you start off with a blue or a green, and then the black and the white to make it lighter and darker. Okay. Now, this is why I mentioned the Bristol paper, because Bristol paper is thicker and you can paint on it within reason. I mean, if you're not using a lot of water on it, you can paint on it. You could even use watercolor, but really watercolor should be, you should be using the watercolor paper, because it's meant for that and it won't bunch up. You're using a lot of water with watercolor, and sometimes the paper can start clobbing up and creating little balls of paper and stuff and tearing the paper, even with Bristol. So I think if you're going to go watercolor, stay with the watercolor paper. You'll just need a small amount of that. And with the acrylic, you can use the Bristol, or if you want to use canvas, go ahead. Canvas board or stretch canvas. Just go ahead if you're able to buy those materials. Of course, you're going to need brushes. I will provide a little bit on brushes as well, and you'll see the technique of mixing paints I'll provide as well. But the monochromatic is what you're going to be focusing on this assignment number 5. And remember, unless they change things at me on the college, we're meeting on Wednesday for our first face-to-face at 8:30 in the morning. So yeah, bring all your supplies unless I provide another email that something happened and they're not doing that. But I think they're going to allow us to meet face to face. Of course, everybody has to have masks and go through whatever system that they have been emailing you about. You know, if you have to get tested or whatever it is, you have to show and prove. Be ready to have that as well. All right. We'll talk with you later.